Hello everyone and welcome back to the X-Ring. I hope you're doing well today. Guys, I had taken some time off from competitive shooting this year. It's been over 5 months since I shot an actual match, and that was a rimfire PRS match, but it's been, geez, probably 9 months since I had actually shot a DMR or any bigger type competition like that. And so I hate match footage, so I'm not going to bore you guys with that. But, I had a lot of guys come up to me yesterday. Thanks to everyone that came up to the match and said hello, and thanks for following the channel. But I had a lot of people ask me about gear and equipment and what I used and why I used it. I know I've done these before, but usually after shooting a match, I always try to answer those questions for folks. Whether you're buying the right gear, wrong gear, maybe I'm not using the right stuff, but I will tell you it works for me. So I'm going to do this video talking about the match yesterday. It was at Old Fort. It was called the VOD. It was the Carbine Crusher. It was a DMR match, no pistol, just strictly carbine. And they had 3 different divisions. One division was limited to 1:6 optic. Then you had a 1:8, and then it was everything else. And in the 1:6 and 1:8, those were just for 223 division, I believe it was. Maybe even 308 in there, I'm not sure. I shot in the open division or unlimited, and the reason was because I chose a 1:10 for that match instead of something else. So I did shoot a Vortex 1:10. We'll get into that in just a moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start top to bottom. I did end up winning the match overall against some really, really strong competitors. If you guys know who Mike Willis is, he competes in all different disciplines. Just a phenomenal competitor. And, when I saw him there, I was like, oh, this can be a tough one today. But I was able to pull off the win by like, I don't know, 30, 40 points. I can't remember exactly. I'll put it up on practice score here. But let's just go ahead and start from top to bottom. Let's talk about all the gear that I used yesterday, why I chose it. Let's get started. All right, so going to any match, you're going to need ear protection, right? Now, of course, you could use the soft foamies. A lot of people ask me about different types of ear pro, and I've been using the auto ears for many, many years now. Guys, it comes in a hard case like this. It has a charger display. You can see they're at 100%, and these are super, super tiny electronic earplugs. These run about $350, $400. They're not cheap, but like I said, I've had these for about 4 years. They always stay charged. They do not have Bluetooth connectivity. You can use foam or you can use the rubber baffles, but it is a great, great piece of kit. For ear pro, you can run them all day long. They don't get in the way. They don't hurt. And I just love this set of ear pro. So this would be first and foremost for me. It's going to be the hearing protection. All right, so when it comes to eye pro, I'm not going to be too particular about that, but you guys don't normally see me with sunglasses. I rarely ever wear sunglasses when I am shooting. I only run clears. Maybe there's going to be some disagreement about this, but whenever you wear sunglasses, that allows your pupils to basically open up or dilate, okay? If you wear like yellow or clears, they're not going to dilate and they're going to constrict. That's going to give you more crisp, fine vision. So this is something that I noticed probably 20 years ago. This is why you never see me with sunglasses when I'm shooting, and you don't see me with yellow lenses or anything like that. So my choice, if I have to wear eye pro, is going to be one of two. One are going to be the set of gaiters, that I wear the great gaiters, I wear clears on those. You want something that's good. I got good ballistic protection, and then for the last year or two I've been running the blocks. These are available online. You can get them through Global Ordnance, I believe it is. Those guys are super, super great, but these are true ballistic glasses. They're light. You get interchangeable lenses, some great cases. You might want to check those guys out. And so those are the eye protection. Now, when it comes to equipment, let's go ahead and just start with bipods first. So I took 2 bipods yesterday. You guys know that followed the channel that Thunder Beast is probably my most favorite bipod of all time. Now, there are some disadvantages to it, but the advantage to the Thunder Beast is that you can just slap them down and they deploy very quickly. They're very, very well built. I will tell you, after years of owning these, you do need to occasionally go in and tighten these side screws, and there's a set screw here, and you'll want to Loctite them because you'll get a little bit of wiggle in your bipod. These are solid because I just serviced these the other day, but these have been great. They're super, super fast, and the quality's there. This one does have an Arca Swiss mount. You can have them with a Picatinny, and you've got the adjustable cant lever, which kind of holds that retention. You know, a lot of times you'll retain them, and the next thing you know, they're really, really loose on some of the bipods. But this has been my choice. The only thing is you don't have any type of panning with this, okay? You see, you have the cant, but no panning. But I also took a set of the double pulls. This is a love-hate relationship. You guys know that in the last DMR I had shot, this thing kept collapsing on me, so I made sure before I used it on the stage, because I needed the height, it was a necessity, because I knew that even in the full extension with the Thunder Beast, it wasn't going to be enough, and so yesterday I did use these for that purpose. So the MDT double pull, not saying you have to have them, but have some way of getting high, especially if you're shooting, you know, higher angle, you know, 15, 18 degree shooting, that you can get it high enough so that your buttstock can get low enough. When it comes to magazines, I'm very funny about magazines. I only run Lancer mags. So they're the metal feed lips. I have zero issues with any of the Lancer mags. The disadvantage of these is they can be extremely difficult to seat when you have 30 rounds in them. So make sure that always, and it's always a good practice, anytime you insert a magazine into a rifle, this is a 25 round magazine, right? We'll call it that. Let's just go ahead and we'll go over the build here in just a minute. But let's say a lot of the DMRs will make you start with bolt closed, magazine inserted. Guys, just a light little push, it's going to come out. I mean, you have to seat these. You see, not going. You have to really, really seat these. And so this is the biggest issue I see with the Lancers, is when you seat them, you've got to seat them hard, like crazy, crazy hard. And so that's the disadvantage of that, but they run flawlessly once you get them seated. The other thing is if you've got a 5.56 and you've tested these for reliability, get you a D60, okay? Is it a D60 or D50? It's a D60. I never fill them up to 60 rounds. I usually put about 50 rounds in it because that's a 30 and a 20. I'm not going to insert this in the rifle because of freaking YouTube rules, but having this is invaluable. You know, I've always said that the fastest mag change is the one you don't have to do. And if you get on a stage where it's 32 rounds, guys, I saw so many guys yesterday get to the very, very last state position, and they had to do a mag change because they needed 2 more rounds. I mean, why not? There's no restriction on it. And when it's inserted into the rifle, it's actually shorter. And so it will give you more room so that you don't have to have that full height on that bipod. There's nothing wrong with the D60 unless there's something in the rules say you can't use it, then use it. Why not? When it comes to a bag, this was the only rear bag that I took with me. Just premium Game Changer. It's made by, this is Area 419, but Armageddon Gear makes it through Reezer. And this is the most versatile bag, because if I need something high or if I need something shallow, I've got a bag that I can really manipulate. So I've got that with me at all times. The other one that's a huge one, guys, the Gray Ops plate. You can do it with or without the brass plates. And then the Armageddon Gear flat bag. Remember, take your plastic clips off, or those coated clips, and just run it straight through here. That way you never have to worry about those clips becoming undone. This is invaluable as well. And a lot of you guys say, well, why do you need so many bags? Well, the thing is you want to have that versatility. You don't want to be, now look, if it's, guys, I'll make it work. You know, just because you're watching this video and says, I need all this equipment, I don't. You know, there's DMR matches where they don't allow any bags. And you just man in his rifle and you got to make it work. But if they allow this stuff, why wouldn't you use that to your advantage? If you didn't, then you're just kidding yourself, and you're going to be getting beat by guys that have the stuff. You know, if it's a machismo thing or something where you just want to do it because, hey, I want to run my 10.5 Mark 18 at this DMR match, then by all means help yourself. But if you're there to win, if you're there to see how well you can really stack up to everybody else, then this is the stuff that I recommend that you have, or at least you have an option of having something like this or borrowing it. Anybody that knows me knows that the matches, if you need to borrow anything of mine, absolutely help yourself to it. Just make sure that I get it back, or that I have it at least 2 shooters before I need to go up onto the line, because I usually try to get prepared beforehand. Guys, I did use these at the match. These are the Tactronics that I just reported on. These are a game changer. So yesterday, I never opened my Kestrel. Guys, remember, this has applied ballistics in it, so every single thing that I verified and I shot out of the range, my dope was in there, the sensors worked, and the holds were spot on. That is going to be a game changer for me, because what I did was I put the 18650 battery in here, the rechargeable, the long one, so I knew I wasn't going to have any issues with battery life, and these things performed well. I will tell you, in using them at a match yesterday on these small targets, like for any set of laser range finding binoculars, sometimes that center point is not exactly where it should be on the target. So what I found out with the Tactronics yesterday, trying to hit some really, really small steels at distance, because we did shoot out to 700 yards yesterday, is I have to favor the crosshairs on the right side of the target, because the laser where it's actually getting the return is just a little bit left of that center point. So I did learn about that. Wasn't enough for me to be concerned with, but you should know that on all of your binoculars so that you know, hey, what I'm aiming at here is what I'm getting as far as the distance. I confirmed those with the SIGs and it worked out really well. I'll get into more of that in just a moment. But the applied ballistics, all the holds were spot on, no complaints whatsoever. As far as the rifle, what I shot was one of my Cobalts. This is not the 6 Max, guys. This is I have a bunch of Cobalts that are exact same color and everything. You guys know that I love the Cobalt, still shoot for Cobalt. Aaron makes a heck of a rifle over at Cobalt Kinetics. But what I did was I ended up, I have a bunch of these from XLR, okay? And so this is my choice for a longer, application, long range application, whatever you want to call it. But this was 700 and in. I didn't feel there was a need for me to shoot 6 Max because I didn't know if I was going to shoot really well or not, because I'm a little rusty. I wanted to shoot a 5.56, and so I shot 77 grain, just 5.56. That's all I shot for the whole match. And this is set up perfectly for me for the cheek weld. I mean, I'm looking straight through the scope. It's perfect every time. I am choosing, I chose to use the Vortex, the Razor HD 1-10. It does have the MK machine throw lever. It does have the spur cantilever mount. This is the SP4022. And then I do have the Hawkill data card mounted up top. Guys, you need a data card. I don't usually use a data card though. I usually memorize what I need for my holds. I actually went over this with some guys yesterday. I said, guys, you're over here, you're grab assing, you're having a good time. I said, but unless you know, hey, all of these 6 targets, and up here you can go, I know that's 0, I know that's 1, and we're talking about mils, 0, 1, half mil, 8/10, 1.8, and 2.3. If you don't know that up here, you're just going to be slower. If you're referencing your target card or you are dialing on a DMR match, you're not going to win, okay? If you're shooting against the really, really good guys, you're not going to win. You're wasting too much time. I'm not saying dialing's wrong, and I'm not saying you must memorize, but if you're trying to compete at the top of the pack, that's what you need to have done. You need to have those holds memorized. It just helps out quite a bit. Also have the LRA level from MDT. That is a benefit. I don't like the way this one's mounted. I probably need a vertical mount here, but I threw this thing together on Wednesday because I didn't even know if I was going to shoot the match this weekend. As far as the barrel and all of that, guys, this is a 20-inch proof. This carbon barrel actually shoots great for me. I have no issues with it. I'll shoot it in a DMR, even though we shot some burn down stages yesterday where guys were burning through about 30 rounds. Don't have any issues with this proof. Guys, there's only 2 brakes that I would recommend, at least for me. The SJC Titan, which I've competed with for years, and then the Ultradyne. I've talked about this Ultradyne. I believe this is the Atlas or something like that. I can't even remember. But this is one of the flattest brakes you're going to find for a 5.56 223. This and the SJC Titan. I've put an Arca Swiss rail on the bottom. This is by Area 419. You guys know they're huge supporters of the channel. I just got some of their scope rings in, and I'm going to do a review on those. But those are phenomenal scope mounts. Very, very nice. They're not inexpensive, but good quality stuff usually isn't. This is just an M-LOK attachment mount. Remember, X-Ring on anything in Area 419 will give you about 10% off. So I do try to support those guys. Those guys make phenomenal products. These side panels are something that I acquired recently over in the last year from the guys over at VZ Grips. They're M-LOP inserts. And guys, the texture these things have on them and the bite, I actually love it. It kind of complements the side slots on the Area 419. When you grab it, the texture of it, it's not slipping, it's not moving. As far as anything else, I'm running an ambi safety. I'm running a Hyperfire trigger on this. And other than that, that's it. You guys know that my choice is, for everybody else, is that AXTX charging handle. It just works, and I love it. I think it's a great setup. So this is a little bit more than just the equipment and gear. Guys, if you're really trying to learn about how to do this right, I'm going to kind of go through my setup when I get to a stage, what type of optics I'm using typically on my plate and whatnot. And I think this would be pretty beneficial. But like I said, I've kind of covered it before, but not in detail. But typically at the match, you guys know that I'll be using something like this Swarovski. I think this is the STR 80 or 85, something like that, maybe the STR 80, but it is a great spotting scope. It does have an illuminated mill reticle, so I can turn it on or turn it off, so I'm just spotting. It's fine. It's a 20 to 60. This is not inexpensive. This is very expensive. This is about $5 grand for the setup, but if I'm trying to read wind, which I had to do yesterday, or read mirage or anything like that, or spot, I can. I also used this yesterday because there was a gentleman. He had lost his zero on his rifle, and he was like, man, I'm going to use this stage. I got to get confirmed. So during the stage, I actually told him, I was like, your high 3 mils, come down 3 mils. I was able to turn this on, give him a quick correction, and from then on, he was good for the rest of the match. He had just slipped his rings and lost his zero. I did have the SIGs mounted up here, and the reason is because the designer of the Gray Ops plate, which I love the plate, but it was the stupidest thing ever. They mounted these Arca Swiss mounts to where they're this way instead of normal. So I couldn't run the Vectronics on these because then I'd have to orient it this way, and now I can't have two things side by side. So I love Gray Ops products, but whoever does this plate right here, you need to rotate the mount system 90 degrees, have your thumb knobs here on the side, so that everybody can use it the way it was intended to be designed. It was the biggest problem with these plates is the way that they did the mounting orientation. So every single thing that you put on here, you have to have a mount like that that's rotated. It's just the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I wish they would just redo that to where these were located to the side. Also having some kind of cant feature would be great, because then you could co-witness your spotter to your binos. I know it's little, but I mean, if you're going to go through the time to hard anodize, hard code, and machine all that stuff, just do it right the first time. All right, so enough of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the tripod. I did not shoot off a tripod yesterday, but I have been using this Fat Boy tripod. And yes, they're made overseas, but guys, these are the most robust and probably the best quality tripods I've ever used if weight is not a restriction. So if you're at a match, you're not worried about the weight, having a setup like this is invaluable. I left this set up for everybody to be able to spot with yesterday, or spot from. I do like the inverted legs. This model does not have that. Maybe one day I'll get one of those, but these aren't going to be cheap either. These are going to run quite a bit. Let me go ahead and get the legs set up. Let me show you how this works. All right, so anytime I get to a stage, let's say I go to stage 1, I'm squad 1, regardless of if you have a stage description, you're reading it, it's a good idea to take a picture of that. But trust, but verify, okay? I trust no one's yardages. Those yardages might be off. They are going to be off on a lot of match directors' places. I found one yesterday. Or they'll give you approximates. Well, approximates aren't going to be good enough if you're trying to win. That could be the difference between a tenth, missing high, missing low. So first thing I'll do is I'll glass through the target array using like a 1 to 10. I use the Armageddon gear, the tripod bag. Guys, this is probably the best one on the market. There's probably others. You know, I don't always buy the latest, greatest, but I made these data cards. I used to sell these. I've shut down the online store for now. It'll probably be down from now on. I don't have any intention to open that back up. But I sold a ton of these, and these were the best things. They were Velcro back to get you something like this. Basically, I'll set it up. I'll start finding my target array, and I will build a data card. Okay, now this is just for reference for yardages and everything else. I wish you could have seen it yesterday. I've shown you guys this before. I mean, this will be covered up with the different yardages, maybe the description of the targets, but I'm going to verify those distances with my rangefinders. I'm going to get a good visual, mental view of what it's like. And the reason I like using a set of binos that are 1 to 10s is because that would be 10 power on the 1 to 10. It gives me a good reference of what I might visually see. You know, field of view is going to be a little different on all of it, but at least I'll know exactly where I'm going and when I'm going. Now, when you take these, go up to the stage, be right there on the firing line so you've got good exact yardages. Once you do that, now that was the beauty of having these Vectronics yesterday, is I was able to do that simultaneously and get my dope. It was just so easy just to write it down, and those were spot on for me. I usually leave it here, and then other people will take pictures or write it down because they know that mine are going to be right. I don't just hit it once or twice. I'm not trying to hand hold them. I am literally making sure that that is the distance. Make sure you don't just hit the steel. Make sure you hit the ground. If you can see the ground, the steel, confirm. You know, you don't want some stupid error that takes, 5 seconds because you were off by 60 yards because it was hitting the hill behind the steel. Make sure you've got the steel yardages, and that's usually the case when you go to these matches. Most of them will back shoot the target back towards the firing line, and they have good distances. But there hasn't, I think the last 3 matches I shot, I found 3 errors at all 3, or error at all 3 matches. So just make sure. I'd hate for you to lose a point because the yardage was wrong. The spotter is nice to have whenever you're spotting further impacts or anything like that. I never use dry erase because dry erase is going to do that. They're going to wipe right off. These don't. These are wet erase. You can get these at Walmart. They're Expo, and that's who makes them anyway, Vis-a-Vis. And yeah, if you're really sweaty, they can smear. And if I rub this enough, it will wear off, but it's still holding that primary number there. Once I do that, because I got a little table to work from, I keep a set of data cards in the front of this, and I will transfer the information that I just confirmed with this onto the data card. This will go onto my Hawk Hill. I get this done before the stage starts. I stick it on the rifle. I fold it up to the inside, and I'll go over that in just a second because I've seen a lot of guys where they'll use a dry erase and somebody brushes up against it and it'll wipe your data off, and you don't want that happening. So on top of that, I also keep these, guys, you can get these at Walmart as well. These are just alcohol pads. Guys, these are cheap. You can get like boxes of like 300 for like $5. And I always take my trash with me, but this will be the alcohol to wipe it off. It just keeps everything really organized for each stage where you're not digging around looking for everything. I mean, like I said, alcohol swabs in one. I always keep a couple of these microfiber towels, not only to, let's say, wipe my arms or my face off, but also if I need to wipe the cards off, I have a spare one in here just for that. I always keep a Kestrel in here as well. That's always a good thing to have. And I want to keep things out of direct sunlight. On the back side here, if I need to weight it, I can hang a bag from here, whether it's my heavy game changer, or I can put a drink back here. And then on the Fat Boy, they have this thing called a side chick, and this is great because if you're trying to get any type of recording or anything, you can just mount your camera up there and it'll do all of that while you're shooting your stage if you're into that kind of thing for training or whatever. So that's how I kind of approach it, guys. This right here is my last data card. I'll fold it into the inside, and I'll share a trick or a tip with you that I try to do, whether you're hand loading or whether you're using factory loads. I'll show you something here. It's not about just arbitrarily picking a barrel length, okay? Don't pick an 18 because you think it's cool and it'll save you 2 inches. I mean, who cares? It's 2 inches long. I'm going to have you guys look at this data card here. And on this data card, I'm going to walk you through it. So I'm going to hold this in front of the camera. Guys, if you look here, this was a popper. It was at inside of 100, so it was 0 is my hold. Popper 0 is hold. 100 was 0 because at 100 yards 0. 200, most everybody knows that's about half a mil. Half a mil is going to get you close enough unless it's tiny. 300 yards, 1 mil. What do you see here? 400 yards, basically 2 mils. If I did 300 yards, or excuse me, 500 yards, you'll see 500 yards is basically almost 3 mils, depending on the size of the target. If I laze the target and I'm ranging with those, and I see that that target height is, let's say, 2 mils in height, Well, I'm just going to hold 3. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Guess what? 4 flat. These are exact numbers, guys. And then 700 is 5 or 5, 1. So unless you're shooting PRS where you're shooting really, really small targets, trying to get your ballistic load to work with that barrel length so that your ballistic table is pretty much a no-brainer. Now, it helps quite a bit. Me knowing that 500 yards is going to be 3 mils, it's almost like the 6.5 Creedmoor hack, if you think about it that way. It's actually pretty cool. It works well, and so it's not for me about just arbitrarily picking a speed or arbitrarily picking a barrel length. But that helps me keep something mental. Now, I'm not talking about speed drop. I'm just talking about getting the 2 in tune so that your yards just kind of line up on the 100-yard increments. It does help me anyway. So it was a great match yesterday. The guys over at VOD and Frank put on a phenomenal match. It had a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to talk you through some of this match footage if I can. And I'll keep them short, and I'll tell you why I used the equipment that I used, and we'll go from there. So stick around if you want to learn something. All right, so I'm not going to go through every single video, but on the very first stage that we started on, we had a big log. Now, on this log, you had 4 positions you had to shoot from. They were a little discombobulated because of marks that they had from previous matches, but basically far right, 2 in the middle, and 1 on the tip on the far left. So there were, I think it was 5 targets downrange, and you had to shoot them left to right. So it wasn't near to far, so you were kind of jumping up and down with your dope. Now, I can tell you just from memory, from me shooting that yesterday, that the far left one was a 0 hold or close enough, and then the deeper one was 1 mil because it was right at 300 yards. But then you had a closer one that was 0.5 mil, and then you had one that was further back that was 0.8, and then you had one that was deep at like 382, and I think it was 1.8. And so you had to shoot all 5 of those left to right and do that from 4 different positions. Minimum round count, 20 rounds. Well, that only gives me 10 makeup shots. Hopefully you don't need 10 makeup shots, but just in case, why not run a D60? It's extra weight. It's going to help stabilize the rifle. Why not do that? Anything that I have that's going to be on a log or something like that, I don't want a bipod. Okay, this is going to be more stable for me, and what this is going to offer me that a bipod is not going to offer me is more weight, and the rifle is going to be low on that platform instead of me having to have it up and worrying about perching, legs into the top of this tree. So it's a very, very solid front end with a D60 back here. Now, I did carry this bag. You'll see that I didn't use it, but it was there if I needed it. A lot of these matches, they will not let you take your rifle, go up to the stage and get all your gear and try to get sorted out. You kind of deal with it. You can look at it, but they don't want you touching props just like PRS. And so for me, it was better to have that than not have it. You also notice that I went reverse kneeling. That means the right knee up so I could brace it on my elbow, and I was solid. That was rock solid for me. And so didn't have any issues with that, cleaned that. It was the fastest time. I think for the match, I'm not sure. If not, it was in the top 3. I don't think I finished any stage that wasn't in the top 3 if I wasn't first. But it was nice. It was smooth. I was settled in. A couple of little misses here and there, but that's why I chose the gear that I chose for that stage. So, all right, so on this next stage here, this is going to be a little controversial because some of you guys might say, well, I don't want to be a gamer. These guys are trying to game it, okay? I try not to consider myself a gamer, but I am going to use whatever rules they establish and use it to the best of my ability and the best of my advantage. Why wouldn't I? Because guys like Willis and your top shooters are going to be doing the same thing. It is a mental game as well. It's not always what it seems. So on this next stage, you had 3 positions. Let's get that clear first. You have 1 off the pad, prone. Then the second position was on the vertical post. You had to be touching that post with either a hand or your rifle while shooting, okay? Then the other one was off the table. There were 3 arrays here, okay? You could start on any position, and in any position, you could shoot any of the arrays. Once you got done with that specific array, you then had to change to another position and shoot the other array and then whatever was left, you had to go to that last remaining position and shoot that last array. The arrays were a KYL at about 100 yards that went from basically a large to a medium to a small to a smaller, and you had to run that left to right twice. Okay, so that's going to be 8 shots there. The next array was a target at 350, 323, and 322 or something like that. These were really close, but you had to go right to left. So you had to shoot the 350 first, which was 1.5 mils, and then it was 1313 for me. That's the next array. You had to do that twice, left to right. Then all the way out at 450, you had to shoot that 3 times in a row. That's it. So now you know the 3 arrays. Now you know the 3 positions. What most people did is they thought in their head, hey, I'm going to start prone. I'm going to go with the KYL. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, left to right, and then I'm going to go and pick up my rifle and move right and go to the post. When they go to the post, what I saw a lot of people doing was standing using this post, which now I've got a 300 plus yards targets, or a 450 target that I'm going to try to do standing on a post. I was born at night, but not last night, okay? The closer you are to the ground, the more stable you're going to be, and the only restriction was you or your rifle had to touch the post, okay? And it must have been in the contact with the post. I think the actual description was a piece of the rifle had to be touching the post. I saw guys sitting. I saw guys, just braced up against it. I saw guys trying to use tripods, and the problem is if you got to swing with a tripod, you can't swing the front. Now you got to swing the back because the front has to stay in contact with that post. So that didn't make any sense to me. So I don't like tripods anyway. I don't like to shoot off tripods if I don't have to. And then the other one was flat on top of the table. So, I mean, I watched this thing get shot 20 different ways, and I was like, there's only one way I'm going to shoot this thing. And I was talking to Willis, and Willis was like, what you going to do? And we're good enough friends, we'll talk about this stuff with each other, because it's like, dude, I said, there's no way in heck I want to just hold up against that post and stand up or kneel or squat. Now, if you want to do that to train yourself, great. But this is a game, it's a competition, play it for prizes. I want to use whatever to my advantage, because if I don't, Willis or somebody else is going to. So I said, well, I'm just going to start at the post. I'm going to use this bag on my rail with a bipod. Didn't say you couldn't go prone. That was fine. Check that with the match director. Very first thing I did was slam it up against the post, made sure this was in contact with the 450 target, because I'm not moving. I don't have to swing or pan, and all I had to do was go boom, I'm on it, made sure I had contact, 1, 2, 3. I never lost contact. All I had to do was then pick up my rifle and slide left. I have enough wherewithal to know I can't just go ahead and do that other array, because it technically didn't change positions. I've got the weight on there, that's fine, keeps it from recoiling. And then all I did was I moved left, and then I went ahead and shot the 350, 320, 320, 350, 320, 320. Then I picked up the rifle, put it down on the table. You can see I don't put it down gently. Guys, these are tools, you use them accordingly. And then I went on the table, shot the KYL. Now I knew I was gonna have a bipod on there, knew I was on a table. I needed to make sure I had a bag big enough to give me the rise to be solid enough on that KYL to hit those little small steels, so I can turn this up on end if I needed to. That's how that stage worked, and that's how I broke it down mentally. Now guys, I'm going to skip all the other stages. There were some really cool stages in there, but there was the last stage. The last stage was actually pretty simple. It was 2 poppers at 75 yards. You had 100 yard, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Once you started, if you missed a single target, you had to go back and start over at 100. That's bad, okay? That's really bad. They also changed it from 120 seconds to 90 seconds. The first 3 stages were all 120 seconds, and then they changed the last 3 to 90. Well, 90 is what you use in PRS. Worked out really well. I was comfortable with that time. But remember, you don't have full 90 seconds. I got to worry about guys like Willis that are going to do it in 50 or 40 seconds. And I'm like, geez, I got to do it quickly. I don't want any makeup shots. So on this stage right here, I really took my time. I shot slower than I probably should have. But what I did was I weighted the rifle down a lot. I don't need this to shoot off of a bipod, but it's less recoil Guys, think about a 22. You can shoot a 22 really fast because it's not recoiling. You're not losing your sight picture. I got a good break. I've got this extra weight. I got a D60 on there. And guys are like, why does that guy keep using a D60? Well, because a full mag is very heavy and it keeps that rifle from moving. So I was rock solid on these positions, but what I wanted to do is the wind started picking up. Of course, it was like I was the third to last shooter of the day. I knew I had a good chance of winning this match overall. And so I was like, crud, I don't want to lose this because of a bad wind call, especially shooting 77 grainers out to 700, which is definitely doable, but I don't want to miss, okay? So this is where the PRS skills kind of came into play. You got to have that mindset, guys. We can get sloppy shooting steals. Impact's an impact, you get your point. But we need to know exactly where it hit that steel. So I wanted a rock solid, heavy setup so that when I shot, when I got to 100, I wasn't worried. 200, wasn't worried about it. 300, really wasn't that worried about it. But at 400, I saw that plate do this, okay? And I knew there was a little bit of left or right. But when I saw it do that, I saw where that impact was, even on that 1 to 10, and I'm like, well, as we go out, unless something changes, I'm going to need to start shifting that hold off to the left, as you guys see it. So at 500, I shot it, and it was a solid hit, and I was holding just inside of the edge here. When I got to 600, this is where I'm really starting to pucker a little bit because I don't want to lose one off to the right. And so I held edge, left edge, that whole left edge and send it. And it was just a little bit, not much. It wasn't one of these, but then again, there's not much energy at 600 out of one of these rounds. So you got to be very, very cognizant of that. And so at 700, I held just off left edge, looked like it was a center punch as far as I could tell. And I knew that sewed up the win. So it's mindset, guys. If you're going out there to do your very best and see how you stack up to everybody else, this is all the gear and the equipment that I used. I just wanted to bring this to you because I kind of got in that mode where I wanted to shoot a match, especially after doing that great event out in Wyoming with the guys all at Bergara. I mean, it got me like, I'm going to sign up for this match. I'm going to do it. And I almost bailed on it Friday night because it was starting to rain. I was like, I do not want to be miserable in the rain, but I'm glad I did it. Those guys put on an awesome match. Microtech, I did not even know this, but Microtech snuck one in, and they supported the match and donated knives to the prize table. They had a bunch of out the fronts, but I actually don't have this knife. This knife is called the Amphibian. It is one of the Ramlock series, and this is actually a folder that has a billet aluminum handle on it, and I don't own one of these. It's just one of those. I mean, yeah, I'll work for Microtech, and I can get these knives at employee pricing, as long as we don't take advantage of that, but it's just not something that I would have bought myself, but I do like the knife. And so when this came into the prize table, big shout out to Microtech and Anthony Marfione. Here were the winners. I came in first. We had Mike Willis in second, and then Jeff Yang in third. And then Mike Morano with Quality Sportsman actually came in fourth with a good solid finish. I've got Mike Moreno here. He's got Quality Sportsman. You've got a great channel. I know it's a newer channel, yeah, but it's very, very informative. So how did you think you did today?
I did really well. I tried to shoot faster than I normally do. Move from target to target if I knew it was a hit. I did have some malfunctions on one stage, which is a bummer, but maintaining your gear and building a gun that you're confident in is part of the fun. So yeah. I think I shot really well. This is probably one of my best matches this year.
Yep.
Would have finished every stage if it weren't for the malfunctions. So yeah, that was nice.
Well, nice. Guys, Mike was shooting a 6 Max of Sons of Liberty. He did have a malfunction on the next to the last stage, but I found out you also changed the gas block too.
Yeah, and I have a no cleaning policy that I might have to revisit. So.
Yeah. Guys, if you're going to take the time to shoot a match, pay the entry fee and all that, it does pay. It behooves you to go ahead and just clean that so that's out of your mind. What's happening? What's going on? Is the rifle under gas? It just need to be cleaned.
Yeah, no, it's really critical, especially on a full-size IPSC. I mean, there's a lot of wiggle room where you could be on off one of the edges on the target, and you really need to spot those impacts. Seeing how the target moves is the way to go, because after the first shooter, I mean, the paint is off anyways. You're really not going to see where you're hitting.
Good seeing you guys.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, you too. Take care.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to go over to the see how we all did, and hopefully we did halfway decent. Let's stick around. And guys, the scoring is like golf. The lower the score, the better, because that means your time was faster. And you'll see I was like at 320 something. Mike was like at 370. and then you had Yang and Mike in the 5-something. So hope you guys enjoyed that rundown. Hopefully you enjoyed that gear overview and how I approach some of these stages. Guys, go to a match. The only way you're going to get better and having that pressure, consider it training. Yeah, it's going to cost you ammo. It'll cost you a little bit of entry fees, but this was also not one of those matches that's getting stupid and out of hand, charging $100 plus to $300 for some of these matches. I understand match directors need to do this and make some money, but when you got range rentals, range fees and all of that, it gets expensive for these guys. But if you want to shoot a match, I recommend it's a good way to test to see how you stack up to everybody else. Guys, I hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.